Hello and welcome to the second edition of the Gedling Discussion. Here's Mike Adams.
And he's Sam Smith. Okay, yeah, so I mean, first of all, I'm just going to dive and change the agenda for a second. Just tell you where we are, because you can probably hear this is not my kitchen like it was last time. We are in the park at Arnold Park, very close to where the actual council is, the main civic centre, which is where we attend the council meetings, where the actual chamber is, where we do our debates on council day, full council day. You might hear a few random geese in a minute. They've been squawking like there's no tomorrow, but as you can see behind us is the lake where all that goes off, and also this will be the location of the where the Arnold Carnival is about to happen. Just an update on that, really. They, as I've said, it's on the same site as the council, but for whatever reason, the administration at Gedling have decided to outsource that, if you like, to Nottingham City Council as part of their metro strategy. You know, I think. Look, I understand the costs to councils are increasing as funding reduces, and there's always that necessity to include and try and do things together as authorities. But you know, for me, I would have liked to have seen them put it out to tender, maybe to some local businesses that specialise in things like events, because we've got them here. You know, I know a number of businesses in Gedling that actually manage many events. Some of the big events like the Glowworm Festival and things like that, and also a lot of the food events that spread around the area as well. And you know, it seems a shame to me that we're not tapping into that expertise and creating those extra jobs in Gedling. So
there seems to be a bit of a trend going on, because the country park at the Gedling Country Park, the cafe there has been contracted out to Nottingham City to run, when we could be contracting that out as a council to Gedling businesses to create employment in Gedling and create a better economy in Gedling. It seems to be a shame there, but as Mike said, they've contracted Arnold Hill Carnival out to the City Council.
Yeah, so there we go.
So last month we did a video which is the first discussion, and we was asking residents of Gedling to comment and ask us questions. So this video is all about the discussion that's happening in Gedling. So the Willow Farm Action Group and Philip Oddie asked a question about why new housing being built in Gedling Borough isn't coming with new services first. He made points to the Chase Farm building work. Gedling Conservatives have just held a huge resident meeting there and spoke about it, but we'll go over that point. So the Chase Farm housing is being built now, and phase 2, which is expected to be delivered in 2026, is 8 years after the first house was built, and phase 2 is all about the school and medical centre, and people are asking, well, why isn't that coming first? That is exactly what Gedling Conservatives are asking, councillors like Michael Adams is asking, and what what residents are asking us on the doorstep and telling us. I think it's important to talk about that. Labour-led Gedling Borough Council are going ahead with building houses, but not putting the infrastructure in first, such as roads, school places and GP spaces for the additional residents to enjoy.
So when did you say the school was going to be? Is it the primary school?
Primary school.
So how many houses are going in before they build the primary school?
So there's 300 houses in phase 1, which is happening now. Then it takes 2 years to put the Gedling Access Road through. Once the Gedling Access Road's through, they build another 700 odd houses. After those houses are built, then the school and medical centre goes in, which is going to be in 2026, 8 years after the first house was built.
Right. So there's going to be quite a pressure on local schools. This is something I hear about a lot, and I get a lot of people messaging me about that specifically. Having young children myself too, you understand how pressured the school system already is. When you're looking for school allocations, you'll notice a lot of them say oversubscribed when you're looking into it, and I'm sure parents out there will have been through that. And you know, the additional pressure of new housing, that sort of thing, causes that additional extra subscription to schools. And you know, without the building of those schools as soon as possible, you know, that causes a backlog, and kids don't get to actually get the education access that they need.
It just seems residents are telling us, and we agree, and people at the Willow Farm Action Group are telling us that the infrastructure should come first. It seems that the Labour-led Gedling Borough Council are doing things backwards, building the new housing first without the infrastructure, and we would do it slightly different and make sure the school places, medi centres there before the new housing. But that's just an update on that. Last video, a gentleman called Sam Geeson asked about the possibility of a crossing on Breck Hill. We've passed that to the highways, haven't we, Michael?
Yeah, I went to school with Sam. Yeah, we've passed it to highways, and you know, it's. I mean, we've had some sort of reports back that potentially there isn't enough footfall on that road to accommodate a crossing. You know, but I mean, what I would always say in these situations, you know, if it's something as a local resident you feel really strongly about,
yeah.
You know, you do have the ability to raise things like petitions, which, you know, can be a fantastic way of gaining local backing to really try and change the council and the council's opinion of that. So, you know, my recommendation on that one would be to do something along those lines, get a petition together, you know, and obviously, as I say, get some local community to back you, and then, you know, I will happily get involved with that with you as well. So, you know, drop me an email, or you can get me on Facebook, at Vote Mike Adams, and also the same on Twitter at Vote Mike Adams also. So, if I can help, we will.
Thanks for that, Mike. So the reason why they're not looking into it at the moment is due to the footfall.
Yeah.
But the residents get a petition together, and we'll see what we can do there.
Yeah. Right, next. So, one thing I wanted to talk about was, I had a question from a resident who asked me about local elections and why they're at different times up and down the country.
Yes.
Now, this is something that used to bug me up until very recently, because I never knew the answer either.
There's been some this May in large cities such as London, hasn't there, and Birmingham and places, Manchester and places like that.
That's right. It's not a conspiracy to change the way democracy works and make sure you have to vote once a year and throw you off. The reason it happens is because those actual local authorities were created at different times, and what that was, they chose, therefore, in some of those, to actually vote on a 3 yearly basis rather than a 4 yearly basis. And so that's why you get that crossover within the council times. Obviously, we're actually going to the elections in May next year, for our local elections, which will be for Gedling Borough Council. So that's your opportunity to have an effect on democracy. And also, supplementary to that, if you are interested in becoming a councillor as well, you know, get in touch, because, you know, it's something that I got involved because I kept seeing a lot of things that I think, oh, I wonder why that's not been sorted out. And you know, I could really do with thinking, you know, I've got young kids, I could do, you know, trying to get involved and improve their lives. And
definitely,
you know, how would they do that, Sam, with the Conservatives?
So yeah, if you want to make a difference to the Gedling area and become a councillor, all you need to do is just let us know. We send you an application form out, and then we go through the process like that. Pretty simple and easy, and then once you're approved as a candidate, you have the chance to campaign for your area and get elected onto the council to make a real difference. We're always looking for people who want to do that and want to make a positive difference. So if that is you, please do get in touch by messaging us through the Gedling Conservative Facebook page, or emailing us, and we'll pick that up for you and communicate that way. It's definitely something you can do.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, the reason we are here today is because I've had a meeting this morning on the planning delegation panel. Now, I'm not sure if you understand what that is, but the delegation panel is where, if you have a planning application in play and there is an objection to that application, it goes to a group that meet once a Friday. It's not a public accessible meeting, but any councillor can go. So if you want to pass any comments onto your local councillor, they can bring those comments to the meeting. And we review the applications that have had those objections to them, and then it's just a case of, look, we really try and open it up and put a lot of questions in to try and pick away if there are any issues that need addressing that haven't been picked up by the actual teams here, and then, you know, it determines whether it goes to committee or not. But again, it's one of those things where you can really get involved with the sort of important day-to-day business of the council. So, and you get to be in this beautiful park for a meeting afterwards, which you know, which is only a good thing.
Brilliant, thank you. So nationally, Mark, there's been a lot of comments about employment. So
you got some stats for us?
Yes, some stats at the moment. So there's record numbers of people in employment thanks to the Conservative government today. 2/3 of the rise in employment this year have been in full-time work.
Yep.
3/4 of the growth in employment since the Conservatives became the government in 2010 has also been in full-time work, and 70% of the jobs created this year are in high-skilled and high-paid jobs. That's fantastic for this country and fantastic for our economy. Wages are now rising faster than prices, which is another fantastic thing, and you can only get that with a strong economy, and you can only get a strong economy with the Conservatives, which these figures show.
Yeah, and I'm right in saying I think that figure on 0-hour contracts, which I think is something that's highlighted as a thing, was something down to 2% of all actual jobs. My understanding is. So
the rumour that all this employment is in 0-hour contracts are wrong, and as we've shown, 3/4 of the jobs created since we became the government are in full-time work, which is brilliant for families, brilliant for people, and brilliant for this economy.
And that information's from the Office of National Statistics,
Yes,
isn't it, the
that's
ONS?
right,
So again, if you want to verify that, they're an independent group, and you can verify that information with them. What we always try and do is source everything we quote, so that you can go away and do your own research, because you don't. It's important that you sort of believe what you hear, and you can go on there and do that research, and you'll realise that the stuff that we are quoting are figures that come from independent groups rather than our own think tanks.
Absolutely. Did you have an update for us on the wall on Arnold Lane?
Yeah, there was I mentioned, I re-tagged our video on Facebook the other day, the video that me and Sam did on the road, because basically we attended planning committee on Wednesday, and unanimously it was voted through on Keep Moat's application to lower the size of the Gedling wall to a maximum of 2 metres. And on top of that will be a small fence, and then behind that will be some planting, trees and such. And a more steady incline up towards where the properties are. So yeah, we are happy they managed to resolve the application problem, and we are happy that it's come to a conclusion. It's a development that Gedling does need, and we want to ensure that while developments like that are taking place, that everything is being done correctly. Within line with national and local policy.
We received a few messages after me and Mike did that wall video about the wall being reduced. What that wall was there for was to hold the bank of the soil back and allow the foundations to be dug for housing. I think 12 houses were affected.
Yeah, 12 houses.
So what in reducing that size, reducing the size of the wall, they've had to bank that piece of land now, which has resulted in 12 houses being relocated, which has affected people in Gedling. We've received messages about that. The reason that's happened is because, am I right in saying the wall wasn't on the original plan?
Yes.
So we couldn't, the council couldn't foresee that then.
That's right, yeah, the permission wasn't there. Yeah.
So that's caused a headache for residents moving into those 12 properties because they don't take.
Which is sad, and going through the property process is not always an easy one, and it's filled with you sort of are very excited about these things happening, and it's tough, and it's in the end, I suppose it was seen as a solution to an issue. They didn't have the right permissions. If that permission, if it had carried on, it wouldn't have had the permission anyway. At least it's been caught now, the problem's been resolved, and hopefully those residents that have sort of felt that will now take some solace in the fact that it's been caught before their houses have been built, because then we would have had a whole different problem on our hands. So that there is a positive, and again, it's sad for people that are going through a difficult time as a result of this being moved. So just want to nip back to national for a second. I don't know if you've seen anything about the FOBOTs. These are fixed betting terminals.
Oh yeah.
So the government yesterday decided to reduce the minimum bet to the maximum bet to £2, down from 100. The problem with these machines is they let you do a rebet every 20 seconds. So if you had a gambling issue, or if you were just at a gambling machine, you effectively could blow a hell of a lot of money in a very short space of time. Which for some vulnerable people, or even people that not necessarily vulnerable, but just maybe thought, well, I'll have a quick bet or something, and the next thing you know, you've blown a week's wages. So I think that's a really good move. It's really showing of a competent government that thinks about the people of the country, and I'm really proud of them for doing it. And I realise that there'll be some fallout in regards to the betting companies potentially, and I'm again, nobody wants to hear about potential losses in jobs, but if you're looking at something, for me, from a perspective as as looking after the community in a more long-term way, that's the only solution. As opposed to completely banning them, which is also on the table. I think, oh, there's one more thing to show you. We will have a walk over there and show you that. Basically, it's the new Arnold Park, which is just being built. So we'll take you over there for an update.
Yeah, and don't forget that to get your comments on in the comment box, and that's what we'll talk about in our next discussion, because this is all about what's happening in Gedling and we can give you an update. So please do comment, get in touch with us, and we'll update you in our next video. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks very much. Cheerio.